Karen,
Yes.
do you feel that?
Yes. Oh,
Yes, you feel.
I do. I feel
Okay,
a lot.
well, that's good to know. Otherwise, the alternative is not something that we
It
want
would
to
be
talk
very
about. This is not that type of
I
show.
am an empath.
You are, but this is not that type of show. So the question is, do you feel that your life is aligned with the forces of the universe?
I mean, all of my life. There's like some little bits that I sometimes think that might be aligned.
Okay, well, what if I told you that you could actually find a way to align yourself to these forces so that you could be living in more love?
I would love that. So all the bits would be aligned.
All the bits. And
I like that.
But not just more love, but also more abundance, greater levels of health and well-being. Your soul's purpose would be completely revealed to you. Your talents and special attributes would emerge.
Ooh.
You'd be living a limitless experience of life and become highly effective at everything that you do.
I mean, you had me at love.
Yes, but for everyone else who wasn't there yet, maybe they still need a little bit more convincing to listen to the episode. Apparently, this is what we're all intended to experience in this lifetime. But so few of us are able to achieve it. Now, what if I could bring a group of non-physical teachers to the show that could help us find our way there?
I would love that.
I thought you would. Now, would you say that would be worth staying tuned with? So would you say that would be worth staying tuned in during the break for?
Absolutely.
Okay, well then don't go anywhere, because by the end of this episode, we're going to know just how to get there. This is an episode of the Skeptic Metaphysicians you don't want to miss, and it starts now.
My name is Will.
And I'm Karen.
And unlike Mulder and Scully,
we both want to believe.
So we've embarked on a journey of discovery.
We've talked to people deeply entrenched in the spiritual and metaphysical world.
We've thrown ourselves into weird and wonderful experiences. I even joined a coven of witches.
And wait, you joined a coven?
Yep, all in the interest of finding something.
Anything.
That will prove that there's something beyond this physical,
three-dimensional world we all live in.
This is the Skeptic Metaphysicians.
Hey, welcome to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. I'm Will.
And I'm Karen.
And today we're honored to have Gary Temple Bodley, a renowned channeler who has spent over a decade bringing forth the spiritual wisdom of Joshua, a group of non-physical teachers. Now, through thousands of channeling sessions and his popular podcast, Joshua Live and the Law of Attraction, Gary has provided profound insights on topics like free will, manifesting, shifting perspective, physical densities, and the law of attraction. Now, he's helped people from around the world view their lives from a higher perspective. He's also the author of 4 books on spiritual understanding, including A Perception of Reality and A Radical Change in Your Approach to Life. His work has even been featured in a documentary titled The Teachings of Joshua.
Ooh.
Today, Gary's here to share his incredible journey, the wisdom he has gained through the 10 years of channeling Joshua, and how we can transform our life by realizing that we're truly the creators of our own reality. We're beyond excited to dive into the conversation, so welcome to the show. Gary, how are you doing today?
Great, Will. Thanks so much, Gary. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you.
Beyond thrilled.
Beyond thrilled.
See what I did there?
I saw that, yes. You are clever.
All right, Gary, we've got so much to talk to you about and so little time. So I'm just going to dive right into it because we all know that we are the creators of our own reality. At least we know it here.
You're
right? If you're in this space, if you listen to podcasts, if you study this at all, you have heard that many, many times. However, the reality is something different. The reality of putting into effect is something completely different. So my biggest question to you is, how can we wake up and stop creating the world we're living in right now? Because it is a mess.
Well, first of all, your reality is awesome. Look at you two. Look at this show. Look at how much fun you're having. Your world is amazing.
You know what? You're right. But the world outside that window is not so much. It is a little scary right now.
It is a little
Only if you pay attention to it. Only if you focus on
That's true.
But if you did not have social media, TV, radio, whatever, you lived in your little town in Virginia with your friends and your family and your loved ones and didn't pay attention to that, you would not know because it does not affect you.
Kind of. I mean, so it affects us in a certain way because, for example, we have a daughter who's 13 years old and her future is at stake, for lack of a better word. And if we act like ostriches, which put our faces in the ground and just don't pay attention to what else is going, la, 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 I'm not listening. I'm not sure how that's going to help her. Or are you saying that perhaps there's a way around it?
There is an illusion going on. This is an illusion of separation.
Okay, now we're getting to it.
This is forgetting who you are. This is an adventure that you came into.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know anything. You don't know anything. You have a set of beliefs. You want certain things based in that set of beliefs. But if those beliefs were different, you'd want different things.
Mm-hmm.
So adjusting your beliefs from limiting to empowering will shift your perspective of yourself in your reality. If you are focused on what's going outside of you in an attempt to control that so that you feel better, it's never going to work because you can't control any of that. If you're projecting something into the future, you don't know what's going to happen. You couldn't have imagined what would happen in the last 5 years of all kinds of different things. You couldn't have imagined COVID happening. You couldn't have imagined a million different things happening.
Mm-hmm.
But do they really affect you? And what is your basis for wanting things to be a certain way? It's this not knowing. We all would feel better if we knew, but empirically, there's no way to know anything. For instance, you think you know your birth date. That's just a belief. You have some evidence for it. You have a birth certificate. You've got your parents saying that was the date. And so you have some understanding that that was the date you were born, but you could have been switched out with another baby. They could have had some scandal going on. You never know, right? And people find us all the time.
Good God, Gary.
Right? Well,
a baby switching.
This idea that we know something is just really, we have beliefs about things, and we have certain amount of evidence for certain beliefs, and we have no evidence for other beliefs. But in general, our lives are the sum total of our beliefs. That's our mental construct. That mental construct then begets a perspective, a general perspective in every area of your life. And that perspective is translated into a vibration. That vibration then creates the reality. So if you can shift that perspective higher, by definition, you raise your vibration and you attract a different reality. Essentially, there's two default perceptions of reality. The one we're all born with, which is the victim, meaning we believe that outside conditions and people can make us feel something. That's the fear-based mentality that we all grew up with. We feel something, and it seems like that event caused us to feel something. But what really caused us to feel something was a belief. And without that belief, we could not feel anything. And so this process then of ascension is adjusting those beliefs from limiting to empowering. The other possible belief system is that you're the creator of your reality, and that how you interpret the outside reality is indicative of how you feel. So the reality is what it is. It's created by your unique perception of it, your unique belief system. Everyone's different. And you can choose to see that reality from a limited perspective, perceiving yourself as a victim in that circumstance, or from a higher perspective, perceiving yourself as a creator in that circumstance. If you perceive that you're a victim, you're going to feel negative emotion. That's the simple, basic form of guidance. You've heard that many times before. Your emotions are simply guidance. The negative emotion indicates that you're perceiving reality inaccurately.
Okay, so I have a question about that.
Excellent.
About
just one.
Well, just about the experience. So about, I don't know, like maybe 20 years ago, I woke up one night and there was a man in my bedroom with a knife, and I got away. But there was stuff to tie me up and all of this. So I had never feared that. I never really even thought about that, but it scared the hell out of me. So are you saying that that emotion that I have was already, like, explain that to me, but like,
okay,
in that circumstance?
So you're going very extreme, which is fine. look at that event from a limited perspective. You could have been killed. You could have been, something terrible happened. Oh my God, that person should not have been there, not existed. What a horrible thing that happened to you, right? The victim mentality. Mm-hmm. From 20 years later, you look at it and go, you know what? That incident shaped my life from then on. Everything that I've come to appreciate and learn and grow, that influenced all this growth. I wouldn't be where I am now had that event not occurred. I understood that I was able to survive it, that I moved on from it, that I got to reconcile it, and that I'm at a so much more evolved place now because of it. Nothing actually bad happened. It was traumatic at the time, but I'm fine now. So 2 different ways to look at the same event. One as the creator, looking at it from this higher perspective, and one as the victim, oh, I got lucky, right? And that should never have happened. Now, what does that mean in your life? Well, from this higher perspective, which, let's see, may not be true. We don't have any evidence it's true, right? You are empowered by that. You're not feeling negative emotion about that. This, you guys dived into like a really traumatic subject. So everyone wants to go to the most, the worst thing that could possibly happen at the beginning. But if you did it in small little things every time in your life. So I have something that came to me today that I think that will help anyone who's got any, issues with family or friends. So imagine that you have a son and you are trying to get him ready for school because you have an appointment with a realtor at 9:30. And he's just not cooperating. And it's the same thing all the time. He never gets up in time. He never does anything in time. And so you have this disagreement and you maybe yell at him and push him along and get him going. Why? Because you want to make this appointment with a realtor, right? So that's, Joshua talks about there's things you think you want and things you truly want. So in this instance, you truly want a wonderful relationship with your son. Mm-hmm. You truly want to spend time with him and appreciate him at this age because he's never going to be this age again. This is the thing that you truly want. What you think you want is the realtor, meet the realtor on time, have her have a good opinion of you, that sort of thing. And so you're sort of sabotaging your relationship with your son just to get this thing you think you want. But if you thought about it, it wouldn't matter if you missed the appointment, as long as you had a great time with your son and had, it didn't stress him out and all that stuff. That's what you truly want. Mm-hmm. So when we're focusing on these conflicts that we might have with the people in our lives, it's good to have a context there. What I really, really want is a great relationship with my husband and my children and my parents and my friends. And this other stuff about what people think of me and being, on time to avoid the negative emotion of some consequence that may or may not happen down the road. It's adjusting your framework so that you realize you create this reality. So what is most valuable to you in your reality? It's the things that you love and give you joy. What do you think you want is the security and like, love, and respect from other people and these things that really have nothing to do with you because they're looking at you from their perspective anyway. When you think about any negative emotion, we're usually talking about the day-to-day stuff, the day-to-day annoyances and little things. That's where you start. And you look at those little things from the higher perspective going, you know what? It's all going to work out perfectly. This person in line in front of me, they're confused right now. I don't have anywhere to go. I much rather help them rather than be annoyed with them. That's what I truly want. When you look at the traumatic things in your life, you want me to tell you a story about my partner, Christy?
Sure.
Would Christy want you to tell us a story?
Yeah. That's a better question.
We don't know, so we're just going to go with it.
Okay. Sorry, Christy. I tried.
So Christy gets divorced from her husband, and she's dating her new boyfriend. And her ex-husband is sort of a stalkery guy, and she's not really thinking too much of it. She gets the inspiration one day to, actually, her friend calls her, she hasn't seen him in 20 years, and says, come and visit me in North Carolina. And she goes, all right, I haven't seen you in a long time. And so just out of the blue, she goes and spends the weekend. While she's gone, her ex-husband murders her boyfriend, right?
Wah-wah.
So, and then they all thought it was her. And so there's a big trial, and they can't find him for a long time. And Christy's got to hide at different, move around and, stay low.
She's on the name.
Yeah, and finally they catch him and they go through trial, and she's written up in the paper. It's a big deal. She realizes that started her spiritual journey. And while it was tragic, everyone was playing their part in it. Her boyfriend, Tiny, who died, the ex-husband who's now in prison, and Christy. It was all set up to launch Christy on this spiritual journey. It's an amazing journey that she's been on, and you guys should have her on the show because she's the most amazing psychic and medium you've ever seen.
Bring it on.
But the fact is, you can look at that event and be traumatized from it and victimized from it, or you can look at it from the higher perspective. Now, we could be wrong. Maybe this was just a terrible thing that should never have happened and someone died needlessly. We don't know. But from all the work that we've done, we know there's a non-physical, that in the non-physical, there is no fear, there is no separation, there is pre-birth agreements, all these things. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. How Christy feels now about that whole thing is empowered. How someone might feel about something similar would be victimized.
So it's really a choice, right? She made a choice to make it mean something to her versus victimize her, right? Is what you're saying?
What we get told over and over and over again by Joshua, Abraham, everything is working out for you. Nothing is ever happening to you. It's all working out for you. It's all happening for your benefit. Everyone goes to the most extreme things, and that is this, we are living in polarity, right? We are experiencing polarity. White, black, light, dark, good, bad. Well, we can't say good, bad. What I'm trying to say is there's a range and everything exists within it.
Ice cream, no ice cream.
But we're existing in duality, that this part of that range is good, but that part is bad. And if we can realize we need, like Abraham says, the entire buffet so that everyone can have the experiences that they came for.
Right. So everything happens for a reason. And it's
everything happens for you. Literally for you. Yeah. Everything happens for you.
And we've heard that before. And again, it's one of those things where up here, I got it, Gary. I totally get it. However, here is a totally different story. I'm trying to get it.
Karen, do you get it? Does it resonate with you more?
I mostly get it. But okay. Every once in a while, I kind of fall back into really, like I couldn't help thinking, you're telling us Christy's story, and I can't help thinking about the boyfriend. Like, how was that beneficial for him? But then I'm like, well, maybe it was his time to just get out of here and be one with the collective consciousness. Sometimes I have to like talk myself back into getting it.
Right. And that is vulnerability, because to have a belief like that, where it's okay that someone transitioned to the non-physical is not a bad place. It's a wonderful place. He's ready. It's the timing. That opens you up to no control over your death, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. And so you ever notice that when anyone dies, everyone asks, how do you die? so that you can control. You don't want to die that way, right? That's the reason.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right, actually.
Yeah,
When
right.
you die, oh no, I'm never shark diving again. That's it.
We have a joke that says, when we die, we want it to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Well, wait a second. No, because people know me too much. No, no. I want to die screeching into like whole plate or something. Something completely different. He did what? Awesome. All right. So then the question though is, because I do get it here and I want to get it here. So how does someone like me, who is very firmly entrenched in the 3D world and gets up every day, goes to work, and buys into the whole I gotta do this for my family or do this for me, or right, all the responsibilities and all that kind of stuff. How do I say it's all good when I break my ankle in Europe, for example?
Right. Okay. First of all, you're not really fully in 3D. You're probably, in the top 2%, right? You couldn't be doing. You couldn't be doing it. So you're up there. Your perspective is very high already. Okay. When some event happens, Joshua calls it a manifestation event. The manifestation event comes because you're not aware of a limiting belief. There's a limiting belief in place that is preventing you from acting on inspiration. Your inner self is sending you inspiration all the time. But this belief causes you to either knock away that belief before it even consciously gets to you, or as soon as you hear the inspiration, you're like, I can't do that, or that's impossible, right? It's that belief. That belief ignites in fear whenever you have this inspiration. So in order for your inner self to get you to take some action on this inspiration, first it has to put you in a situation where you can discover this limiting belief. Once you discover and aware of this limiting belief, you can prove it's not true. For instance, I have a friend who will not fly. He will not go on an airplane. He believes that it's dangerous. But we know it's not. We have evidence to show us how self is. So we use this evidence for ourselves to go on that crazy tin can in the sky and land somewhere else.
Right. It's called the laws of physics.
Right. So we're able to push past the fear to act on our inspiration to fly to Paris. He will never fly to Paris because he can't push past the fear. His belief that plane travel is dangerous prevents him from ever buying a ticket. Now, if he just sat down with the evidence and pored over it and proved to himself that that belief is not true, the next time he's inspired to go on a plane, he might be able to push past that fear. Sure, it's going to be a lot of fear, but now he's worked on that limiting belief. He's got all this evidence. Well, you can do that with any limiting belief because all limiting beliefs are false.
And I think you don't even realize your limiting belief. I think that you feel deep down inside like you don't deserve a break, a vacation. Went to Hawaii, first day in, you got COVID. Go to Europe, first day in, you break your ankle.
So anyway,
Hey, Karen, you hit the nail on the head on that one too. And that COVID and the broken ankle are these manifestation events showing you that you have this, this is not responsible feeling, right? I shouldn't be taking this time off. I have to cover the bills and pay for these things. It's not that you don't deserve it. It's that it's irresponsible. You're not doing the manly thing by taking care of the family. And that's your number one, identification.
Yes.
Right.
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 Yeah.
You believe that Karen loves you because you take care of everything.
I mean,
and if you do not, if you fall asleep on the job, then she's not going to love you anymore. That has nothing to do with it. It's your energy that she's attracted to and loves.
Well, thank you.
The fact you're doing the show. I mean,
yeah. Thank you first. And yes, I thank you for calling me out. the bus hurt. But however, okay, let's say that I I hear what she's saying, and I'm on board, but I want to be worthy. So how do I prove that the limiting event
Yeah.
is incorrect?
Okay, so those two things are unusual. Getting COVID your first day in Hawaii, breaking your ankle in Rome, right? You have to look at that and go, that's pretty weird.
Mhm.
I mean, how often does those two things happen?
And
Very
we haven't gone
rarely.
on a vacation in years, both
Okay.
times.
Perfect, right? Okay. So they're just showing you that you have an identity that you believe is the reason that your family loves you. That's just limiting, obviously, right? It's not true. Where in your life can you see that you didn't have to take care of everything for them to love you? Like, was there a point where you couldn't do anything and they still loved you? Or you look at something in your life, where has it been in my life where I wasn't able to take care of everything, but they still love me anyway? Or I wasn't able to do this thing I want to do, but they still love me anyway?
Actually, I would bring it back to getting COVID in Hawaii and breaking my ankle in Europe, because even though I had a broken ankle in Europe, the first day of a 3-week, well, second day of a 3-week European vacation, she went out of her way to make sure I felt comfortable helping me and knowing that it's all good. We're going to make this trip worthwhile regardless. So yes, I do see that. But
You have the proof.
Testing me.
am I testing her?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
No, I am not.
No.
Not testing you, Darren. Not testing
Okay.
you.
You are finding evidence in your own life how you couldn't be the one taking care of everything, and you were still loved and taken care of.
And we were still fine.
Yeah. And you will always be fine. You lose everything, you will still be fine.
Right. So it's back to what you said earlier, which is that change of perspective.
Right.
That change of perspective is what's gonna move the needle for you. And that's what this is all about. Right? It's about listening to Joshua. It's about listening to these types of shows. It's about doing your meditations. It's about reading the books and living the spiritual life, knowing that there's more to it than this 3-dimensional world we're living in.
It's
Oh,
about
there's
making a
so
choice.
much. Yeah.
And what?
It's about making a choice.
True.
A choice to believe.
Yes.
It's about opening up those belief systems. I was exactly like Will. I was a total skeptic. And the stuff that I've experienced in the last 11 years is just mind-blowing. My belief system is completely changed, but it's through experience.
Right.
And every day I had to push past fear to do these woo-woo things that I'm doing.
It's so funny. This show, I love this show so much because it goes in these waves, right? Exactly what we are focused on is the guests that we attract to the show at the perfect time. We just talked about this.
Uh-huh.
I get all kinds of signs from the universe. Karen, on a previous show, talked about how I like to say that the universe starts with a whisper and ends with a 2x4 to the head. I've
Or
got
to
that
the ankle.
or that 2x4. I am sick of getting it over the head or the ankle because it continues to do it, and yet we get guest after guest saying the same things that you're saying to me about, or to us, to the audience, to all of us. But that you have to listen to it. Like, you have to look at it and even take the step, because you can internalize it. And you can say, "Oh yeah, I know this," and I can intellectualize everything and explain everything away. But if you don't live it, that's the rub, right?
Here's the thing: I'm intellectual, you're intellectual. Men tend to be intellectual. It is an intellectual start. You got an ego voice going on saying,
"Oh yeah,
don't be weird. What are you doing? No one's going to read this book. No one's going to listen to your podcast. Why are you wasting this time?" And you have to, that ego is there for a purpose. It keeps you alive, right? And it's going to try and keep you safe. And you're going to have fear with every inspired idea. That's just what happens. You have an idea, it's going to trigger some limiting belief. You can't get rid of your limiting beliefs. You can only soften them so that they're not limiting. But to have the experience is where you get the information. Abraham's famous words. Words don't teach, experience teaches. Right. We're having this conversation. People are listening passively. They're learning. They're getting some concepts. And then they're going to have an experience. And that experience is going to cement what they've heard here in other places, right? And then they're going to be inspired to do something they would never do before. And they're going to have fear. And that's when they stop. I'm not going to go to this retreat. I'm going to take this course. I'm going to, talk to my friends about this. This is one of the scary things in this community, spirituality, is we're sort of all in this alone. The rarity of a couple that's on the same page is unbelievable, But more often than not, you have friends out there who are secretly listening to this stuff, but not wanting to talk it in case they sound weird to their friends. But everyone knows somebody. And when you start opening up to your friends about the little things, even meditation, or affirmations or little things like that, you can find this community. And that's what helps, is really to have that friendship and community. And probably all your listeners join this community, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And I think it's easy, you're talking about you have these conversations and you have an experience, and then from that experience you go on. I think, unfortunately, it's so easy and so much more, I guess, common for people to try to explain that experience away as a coincidence. Oh, that was just because of this, or that was, and not to really just accept that maybe it was a miracle. Maybe,
Yeah. That is such a good point, because this is what we all do. Something which we call unimaginable happens. And the instinct is to explain it away because that keeps you safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It can't be woo-woo. Woo-woo can't really be true.
Yes.
Christy and I started a new podcast called An Unimaginable Life. And this is just amazing. We started this in December, and we're doing 1 or 2 a month. And then we started, she was doing these medium readings. She's unbelievable. And there are spiritual medium readings where the person's relatives, dead relatives, will come in only to introduce them to their spirit guides. So generally someone will have 3 spirit guides, and the spirit guides will give this amazing information about how to move forward in their lives. There's really 2 types. There's the ethereal spirit guide, that's a god or an angel or something that's familiar. They have names and you can look them up and Google them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'll be a person, a human, someone who was a human before as a spirit guide. And I found these fascinating because they would really relate, and they'd be these interesting people you never heard of before.
Mm-hmm.
So we started in our podcast doing Dead Talk. And Dead Talk is, we have cue cards and we have 4 categories, because she'll bring them in and there'll be thousands of famous people who've transitioned who want to come and talk. And so we have categories, male or female. So we say, okay, this one's male. All of the women are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Lived in the 1900s. So anyone before is gone. Was a philosopher, right? And then was born in Europe. So then we get this French philosopher that we never heard of before, who's telling us all this amazing stuff from their perspective about how we're living our lives now, what's really happening, and what was happening in history, and how past lives work and all this stuff. So this idea of this unimaginable life, you can imagine a future, an ideal that you want to live. And so that's just a box that someone else has done before. If it's imaginable, someone else has done it before, you want some variation of that, the mansion, the boat, the yacht, the whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
What Joshua and Christy Channel's White Light are telling us is what you want is unimaginable. And you can't imagine it, right? The only way you get there is by shifting your perspective higher and higher and higher. And then experiences happen, just like you said, that now you see that and you go, oh, that happened because I'm having an unimaginable experience. Because I've gone on this ascension journey, seeing myself from a higher perspective. The first indication of that is seeing the numbers line up.
Right.
The second indication of that is being aware, oh, COVID on this trip, broken ankle on this trip, right? Third one is, oh, limiting beliefs. That belief is not true. I didn't even realize I had that. But now that I think of it, I can prove that that's not true, just like the airplane. And then you see yourself now as the creator. So now any judgment, you're looking, okay, well, I'm choosing a side. Why? Because I have some fear. And I think that by choosing to say Republican or Democrat, right? I think that somehow I'm going to protect myself if this party wins. And it's all, oh, there's a fear there that if I'm the creator, then it's a reflection of my vibration. So my vibration is the only thing I care about. And that vibration is all perspective in every area of your life.
Good God. I could listen to you forever.
We can talk forever.
Like the conversation we were having about that person that's always late. And then it's like, why do we keep getting upset? We know this is going to happen. And we just say, okay, and just expect it to be late and we won't get upset about it. And, just like.
Yeah. And there.
How does that feel, though? Being annoyed with someone being late and then just saying, oh, my God, this is just a funny aspect of their personality. We know they're going to be late. And you sit back and go, don't worry about it. We knew you're going to be late. That's so much more fun than being annoyed, because the annoying is trying to control us. It's never going to happen.
Right. And then to nail that point even further, I believe that the reason why I have a hard time doing that on those times that I have a hard time doing that is because I'm not thrilled with me inside right now. And so then that angst, that anger is taken out on how dare he be late, because I'm not feeling good. And so the times that I am feeling good, I can just go, oh, that's just, how funny. Oh my God, we're going to get to bed at 2:00 in the morning today.
That's time for more drinks now.
Right.
There's always a positive. No, I'm kidding.
So really the yes, it's making the choice. It's identifying limiting beliefs, but it's also allowing yourself the grace to find that peace within yourself. Because if you can be at peace within yourself, then you can also offer that peace to others, right? You have to empty out your glass before you can fill it. That whole thing makes great sense. Thank you for the reminder, because I am so lost right now that I need these daily reminders, because it's a challenging time right now.
Yesterday I went to the grocery store with our daughter, and it wasn't too busy, but there was this one cashier guy, and I'm like, I want to go to that line because he talks a lot. And like last time he put like the potatoes on top of the eggs, and he was talking about his health issue and not paying attention. So I go then to the next one, and then of course he gets up. He's like, "Oh, you want to come over here?" I'm like, "Okay." So we go over there. He's just like, "Yeah, boy, I'm just, I'm like, oh, how are you doing today?" He's like, "Well, struggling." And I'm like,
that was your first mistake.
But then I thought, this guy needs to be heard. And I'm like, "Oh, so how was that new doctor you were going to?" And just something like kind of triggered him. He's like, oh, there's someone that cares about me. So I ended up, after this whole conversation, it took a long time and, whatever. So we got out and I was talking to our daughter about it. And I'm like, I had to reframe how I thought about him, because instead of like avoiding the situation, this poor guy has no one to talk to.
Right.
And it probably helped him out. Maybe it didn't, but what harm did it do? And then for her response was like, "Mom, you're really kind." And I'm like, "Well, honey, it's not about that. But if by doing that, I can give that example to her that she'll take with her life,
right,
because of just shift in perspective, go into that guy's aisle and not being like, oh, let's just get through, I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing."
How did you feel when your daughter said, "Mommy, you're really kind"?
Oh, it made my heart big.
So without that guy, that cashier, you wouldn't have that experience.
Right.
So that's why he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, right? And so now imagine that do you realize that we don't manufacture thoughts in our brain, we attract thoughts? Okay.
We've heard that. I've heard that.
Yeah. Okay. So law of attraction, you attract everything. Thoughts are simple. There's two realms of thought: the mass consciousness of humanity, which is generally in fear. The same thoughts keep being thought over and over again. They never die. They're always there. And then thoughts from the non-physical, your guides, your supporters, your inner self, sending you thoughts. So when you go in front of a cashier with the attitude that I'm going to listen to him, and there's something for me in this moment, and I don't know what it is, you can't imagine what it is. But I'm going to be present for this cashier in the moment. And then you get this thought to ask him about
The doctor.
right. And how are you to remember that? That's amazing. Where did that memory come from? Oh, it was given to you, right? The right words, the right time, speaking of the same right thing. Not to necessarily make him any better or worse, but then the unimaginable thing happens. You never imagined that your daughter would pick up on this and then come later and say, Mommy, you're really kind.
Yeah.
And that thing you were given allowed you to put yourself in a place where our daughter said that to you, but also you gave him what he needed to help him through that conversation at that particular point in time.
And then maybe she saw that something so small that can feel like so insignificant can have a big impact.
Wow.
And her whole perception of you, enhanced by that. So everyone got everything in that moment.
Yeah.
Therefore, everything worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
But you couldn't have, set goals for that or wrote a vision board.
Yeah.
It's
She was
unimaginable.
She was trying to avoid
supposed
it.
to happen because I went to the other lane,
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Come this one." I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah. You are incredibly full of wisdom.
Yeah.
But I can just hear our audience yelling at
No,
us.
it's me that you hear.
I'm hearing
The first
Karen
question
yelling
was
at me.
not the first question I wanted to know.
Okay, what is the first question you want?
Who was Joshua?
Okay, we're going to answer that when we come back. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about who Joshua is and maybe even have a chance to talk to them on the show. Is that good?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. Stand by. We'll be right back right after these breaks. Welcome back to the Skeptic Metaphysicians. We are talking, although I don't know if talking is the right word. We are experiencing Gary Temple Bodley, who is a channeler who channels Joshua, and yet little has been said about Joshua the entire show up until this point because Gary himself is so full of wisdom, probably because you have been channeling Joshua for over 10 years, right? A decade of this type of wisdom coming through you. And the timeliness of the messages have been incredible. However, Karen has been kicking me under the table the entire time because she wants me to ask the question that she asked right before the break. And I'm going to let her tee it up again now.
Who is Joshua?
Gary, who is Joshua?
I was a totally normal guy my whole life. And so my wife and I were in business, and we had restaurants and lots of real estate businesses and mortgage and real estate and title and all that. And we were doing great and living fabulous life in South Florida. And we lost everything in 2008. And it wasn't bad though. It turned out amazing. But anyway, so we're living in our friend's house. It was the most amazing house. Just you look back and you're like, how could this even have happened? But anyway, our friend Deborah Jo brought us The Secret, and something resonated really big with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just watched that a little while ago. It still stands up. It's pretty good. But we listened over and over and over again. And then in our own library, we're done with that. We find Ask and Is Given by Abraham. We had bought this and had it and never really got into it. But now suddenly we're into it. We're listening to that. Then we go to an Abraham conference. And then she finds her passion. I find my passion. And we're just having a ball. And we moved to Palm Beach and we're at this really cute little house. Everything's going great. So we had actually bought a house and got owner financing, even though our credit was shot. And this house was a perfect house for us. We renovated it. It became a dream house. And I'm sitting here in this dream house and I get this huge inspiration to start meditating. And I was very against meditating. I didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. My thoughts were all over the place. So I heard Jerry Seinfeld and a bunch of other people were meditating. And finally I go, okay, got to do it with the Abraham guided meditation. So then I would sit there and I could go like 5 minutes at first and really struggle through it. But in about 2 weeks, I could do the whole 15 minutes. And right there, I felt a presence in my head, like a buzzing on the side of my head, moving around while I was meditating.
Ooh.
And I didn't know if this was unusual or it happened all the time, but it kept happening every time I started, would last the whole time, would move around on the left side of my head. And I should go this way. And one day I just started asking a question like you would Abraham in the hot seat. And I got these amazing answers back. And I'm like, okay, this is not me. I'm like, this is something else. And I would just play with it. I wouldn't tell anyone. I thought I was crazy. And one day I just said, who is this? And they said, we are Joshua, like that. And I'm like, well, that sort of sounds like Abraham. So that's not too far off. But at the time, I thought Esther was the only channel in the world. I had never heard of another channel. I'm like, this can't be happening to me. Right. And so that was the summer of 2013, started meditating. And then on November 15th, 2013, in meditation, they said, get up and go right. So I got up out because I meditate in bed, got up out of bed. It was in the morning, went to my home office, closed the doors, turned on my computer, just started typing for a half hour. Typed 3 pages, and I didn't really understand it while it was going in my mind. It didn't make any sense at all. But then when I read it back, it goes, this is pretty interesting. And then that night, Deborah, Joe, and Frank and Lily, we had a dinner party. And after dinner, I gave it to them. And they're like, this is, they're into Abraham too. This is amazing, unbelievable. That was the introduction to the first book. And I went back, wrote half hour to 45 minutes every day for 8 weeks. The first book, A Perception of Reality, 300 pages, was completed perfectly in 8 weeks. The day that was finished, the next book, Health, Wealth, and Love, started. 300 pages, 8 weeks. So in 16 weeks, I had 2 books.
Wow.
And then one thing led to another. I got, met Jules Johnson, started a podcast, went on Law of Attraction cruise, was speaker on this cruise, was channeling by writing for a long time. Jules hypnotized me on that cruise. I started speaking Joshua, then started another podcast, Joshua Live, 9 years ago. And just like everything just kept snowballing. And I'm inundated because I'm doing this every single day, right? Then I have a course. It's called the Boot Camp. Christy is one of the people that take the boot camp. People who take the boot camp is the 8-week course. You take it over and over and over again until you understand the whole thing, because it's really, really deep. She says she took it for the 8th time, and the 8th time was like, okay, I think I got this now. A month later, she gets her first dead person. Right? And we're at Thanksgiving here. One of our friends' grandmothers comes through, and she didn't know what it was, but she has aphantasia. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
That's where you can't visualize anything, like imagine anything visually. Like if I said, imagine a lemon tree on a field with bluebirds in it, right? She can't picture that. Now all of a sudden she's picturing grandmother in an apron cooking apple pie at a stove, and is able to explain this to people and then communicate these messages. And so so she starts doing this, and a whole bunch of other people who've done the boot camp start getting healing abilities and clear cognizance and all this other stuff comes happening. We all have these empathic abilities. Who knew, right? And as you become more spiritually aware, more awake, more of a higher perspective of yourself, these naturally come online for all of us. Unfortunately, they're never what you want them to be.
Right.
Like if you could choose something, I want to be telepathic. No, that's not for you. You get to speak light language or something.
Right. Like I want to ask project, and said, no, you get to message.
Right.
You're a messenger, son.
Exactly.
What?
Yeah. So Joshua is a group of non-physical teachers. They are, or whoever's part of the group, like if I'm channeling to a big group of people, it's everyone else's inner selves joining in. It's all this part, but they're interested in the evolution of consciousness of humans. And so they're cheerleaders and coaches and, teachers and these sort of things. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier that sometimes it's etheric beings and sometimes it's just regular human people. Which one does Joshua fall into?
Joshua's all non-physical etheric, yeah. These are all talking from a point of no, it's almost like, I can't say that. They are relatively practical, because these teachings are very practical about how to live life. But they have, there's no duality there. Here's the first words that were ever written. Everything is right. There is no wrong anywhere in the universe. Anything seen as wrong comes from a limited perspective. But from a higher perspective, whether that's after a bit of time or from the non-physical, everything is always, always right. Right? So the only possibility, like from non-physical, there is no good, bad. It's neutral. There is no wrong. They see everything as perfect. And that's the perspective of our inner selves. That's their perspective. And as we tune to that perspective, we shift our vibration.
Gosh, okay. I think Karen is tuning in, just so you're aware. This is not gonna. I'm not gonna edit this out because 50. What is it? Is that 52? Okay. Because Karen has sometimes gets connected also, and when she gets like this, it's because she's connected. So I'm curious to see, now that we know who Joshua are, do you think they might be interested in coming out and saying hello?
Oh, you're kidding. They are saying, why am I speaking this whole time? Right? Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll set my intentions, quiet myself. They'll come through. They'll say, we're thrilled to be here. And then they'll they'll ramble on for a little bit. And then you can ask questions.
Perfect.
And it goes as long as you want to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
We're thrilled to be here. What we'd like to say is that you might think you're a skeptic. You might think you're not a little woo-woo, but you're at one of the highest perspectives of humans on Earth. You don't really realize this yet. You don't realize the impact of your role as broadcasters, of bringing on guests and sharing this information. The ripple effect of what you're doing is beyond anything you could possibly imagine. You are surrounded by infinite love, loved ones, guides, supporters. You are a dyad, and you have come together at this time specifically to spread these ideas that were not readily available, not easily transmissible prior to this time. You've used your inspiration, this technology, your passion, interest to do what gives you joy. And this is the key to everything. To spread joy by doing it your way, whatever you want to do. You're not on a mission to change the world. You're not on a mission. You are curious. And this is your interest and passion. You are pursuing this because why not? Because you are worthy of this. This is your role. And we can't explain in words the impact that you're having on the mass consciousness of the planet. With that, we'd like to talk to you about anything you'd like to talk about. Where would you like to start?
Karen, do you have a question?
You go first.
I'm really curious to hear what you've got. Anyway, okay.
We are too. Karen, what do you got?
No, I just 100% believe and feel and agree with the spreading of the joy. I think joy is the miracle of life. I think it is a force of creation, and it's so important, so impactful. And we're little by little forgetting that, and we have to remember. We have to remember that.
You have to understand the way that you're doing it too. It's so authentic. No one has any doubt that you're interested, that you're learning, that you're trying, that you are seeking joy, that you're immersed in the illusion like everyone else, that you're so relatable. There's no accident about this. You're on your journey simultaneous with everyone else's journey. and you're aiding the elevation of perspective of all your listeners and all your friends and all the people around you, everyone who looks at you, and you won't possibly understand the impact that you're having because that is a little bit beyond your belief system right now. But as you see yourself as this is who you are, this is why you came, this is your journey, this is your expedition. There is no one else who can do this the way that you're doing it. And every single thing you're doing is perfect, whether you agree with people, disagree with people, have an issue with this, an issue with that. This is what makes this transmission so effective.
And how can we do it more?
Better.
Do one of these podcasts every single day of your life. But that wouldn't be fun. Do it whenever you're inspired to do it. Do it the way you want to do it. You are getting everything you want the way you're doing it now. You're getting everything you need. You're shifting your perspective with every episode, with every conversation. And the lives are changing of those who are listening to the show. They are attracting more. You're attracting more. There's nowhere you need to go. This doesn't have to be anything more than this is to have the impact. The key here is if you have an ideal and you say, I think it would be great to have this. I think it'd be good to get to this benchmark or to have this kind of income or to do this. That's from your human physical perspective where you are now. Imagine who you will be in 5 years. Remember who you were 5 years ago. The journey to get where you are now, to go from skeptic to believer. Imagine where you'll be in 5 years. In 5 years from that perspective, you can't even possibly imagine what you'll want from there. Let this move and flow exactly as it appeals to you. Keep that interest and curiosity, but there's no agenda. There's no fixing of any problem. There's no needing to be anything different than you are. To understand that the two of you together in this completely authentic arrangement cannot be done by anyone else. You've done it perfectly. Every decision you've ever made was perfectly made to lead you to where you are now. Trust everything that you want to do in the future. And when you make a decision together, never look back and second guess that.
It's great advice. So then what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, Joshua, is that you have to let go. Let go of expectations, let go of, really expectations, right? Because we would never have expected to be where we are right now when we first started the show. So let it all come as it's supposed to be in perfect order.
What we would say is that when you form an ideal in your imagination, it is based in the perspective of where you are now, which is limited compared to the perspective of where you will be. Essentially, you do not know what you truly want. Imagine that you're receiving inspiration all the time. Guests are showing up. Synchronicities are happening. Issues in your life correspond to what the guest has to say. How does this all happen? You couldn't have planned that. It all works out perfectly. Imagine that that's what's always going to happen. So when you hold an ideal out there, that ideal then becomes a point of focus. And it could cause you to say, we're doing well or not doing well. It could cause you to have some judgment. But if you let go of the outcome, if you let go of this meaning anything, then you're free to be authentically who you are and follow the true inspiration that's coming to you from your inner self, guides and supporters.
So then, speaking of the guides and supporters, because really what we feel our guides and our supporters are the people who listen to the show, our community. What advice could you give someone other than what you have already given, which is to just trust that everything is in perfect order? But if someone wanted to deepen their spiritual practice or get closer to their own guides or expand their consciousness, what's the best way to move that forward as quickly as possible?
This is a game of perspective. The perspective shift from victim, meaning you believe that outside conditions and people can make you feel something. This is a feeling reality. All you're ever doing is feeling something. When you believe that the outside conditions and people cause you to feel something, either good or bad, then you give up all your power to these conditions. Now, these conditions are simply formed around the vibration you're offering. They're there for a reason. They're there to show you who you think you are. That's all that's happening in these conditions. As you change your perspective of yourself in your reality from limited to more empowered, this reality will feel different to you. It may look the same, may be completely different, but it will feel better. No longer will you get upset. No longer will you get annoyed. No longer will you be in so much fear. No longer will you be in the lower densities of fear. You will shift out of those lower densities, these actual pressurized densities, into higher, lighter, easier densities where you have more connection to your inner self, more clarity, feel better, more alignment, and more inspiration. You'll then receive the inspiration, be able to push past the fear, and take action to have an experience. The experience teaches. Those who are in fear will notice they're saying no a lot. No to opportunities, no to invitations, no to things. They want to stay small because they have an innate fear that an experience could lead to some form of negative emotion. For instance, failure. I'm not going to try this thing because if I fail, I'll feel negative emotion. As if the outside conditions can make them feel anything. They are choosing to allow a limiting belief to be triggered and then in response feel something, perceiving that the outside conditions make them feel something. It's perspective. When you realize that you're the creator of your reality, that you can be, do, and have everything or anything you want in this reality. But first you have to be, and then you have to do, and then you can have. If you aren't going to allow yourself to change your beliefs, to be something different, to expand your identity, to understand things are a little bit different, those of you who are listening right now are at a level where you realize that there is a way to change a set of beliefs. There is a way to modulate those beliefs. There is a way to see yourself from a slightly higher perspective today than you did yesterday. And as you do, that translates into a vibration that reflects back a completely new reality. Now, the point of this is that everyone is moving from fear to love. This is how you do it. You are aware that you're the creator of your reality. You become aware that everything is happening for you, sometimes to point out a limiting belief. Sometimes that doesn't feel good, but that catches your attention. When it catches your attention, you can do something about the belief. You know that everyone has a belief about flying, but if they let that belief limit them, they will never act on the inspiration to fly, as Gary said earlier. You can do that with every single belief that you have that's limiting you from living the life you intended to live.
And for those who are making their way out of fear and into the vibrations of love, but sometimes fall back, as we all do when we make mistakes and when we stumble, what advice would you tell them so that they don't give up?
It doesn't matter if you do or not. When you return to the non-physical, you will look on this life as perfect. You will have expanded exactly as you intended to expand. You will be overjoyed with how wonderful this life turned out. There will be not one iota of regret in it. But if you want to feel better while living this life, then you can choose to process limiting belief. You can choose to expand your belief system. You can choose to entertain the idea that you could be the creator of your reality and things could be working out for you. That simple choice, I choose to be the creator of my reality, will lead you to meet people, to have experiences, to prove this to be true over a period of time. But you will never be out of the illusion. The illusion of separation, which is the base of all fear, will always be a part of this experience. There's a reason that you came to this experience. This is the pinnacle of physical experiences, not for everyone, but it is for you if you are here. If you are here and listening to these words, you could not listen to these words. You would not have found this episode if you were not ready to make that movement from victim to creator.
Oh, God, I am feeling it.
And those stumbles that people might have are actual part of the humanness of them and exactly what are supposed to happen in order for them to gain the experiences they're meant to have.
The stumbles are not really stumbles. The stumbles are just there to make sure you're not going too quickly, because you wouldn't want to go snap from where you are to a much higher perspective.
I don't know, Joshua. I don't know.
It would be like being thrown in the deep end of the pool when you're 4 years old and didn't know how to swim. Quite a shock.
Okay, maybe not.
So while you might not think it's the right timing, the universe always knows the right timing.
You are guided and supported every moment of your entire life by your inner self and your millions of guides and supporters. You can't imagine the love that's flowing to you all the time. You can't make a mistake. You can't get it wrong. You can live as boldly as you want to live or as small as you want to live. It's exactly the same. You can have as much fun and as much fear in the same life. A roller coaster ride of a life is an exciting life. It is great to be excited, and it's okay to be upset. But if you want to move towards more ease, joy, calm, you must move to seeing everything, especially yourself, from the highest possible perspective that you can believe in the moment. And that perspective will elevate over time.
So then to bring it back to the physical world for a second, because this part of the audience has to find a way to that place too. If my actions are always about what seems right to me, you do have to temper it a little bit by how that's going to affect people around you. So if my expressed needs or wants go in the opposite direction of what I feel is going to be in the best interest or may hurt someone's feelings, how do you grapple with that?
You are the creator of your reality. Everyone else is the creator of their reality. You cannot create in their reality. They cannot create in your reality. You can influence them, they can influence you. But you must understand, there's far more going on than you can possibly imagine. For instance, you believe that you must do certain things for your daughter, and that if you don't do these certain things, there could be some adverse effect. But she's the creator of her reality, and there are no mistakes. She is getting everything that she needs from you, and if you were to say something or do something that she got upset by, she would know that that's a manifestation event pointing out a limiting belief. Now, is she aware of it yet? Possibly not. But could she really be in your family if she didn't want to learn these things and grow up in this new approach to life? You cannot do anything to anyone else unless they are benefited by the experience.
Mm.
How they perceive it is based in their belief system, and you have no control over that belief system. Their perspective is unique. You have no idea how they perceive whatever event that you are connected to. You may be inspired to say something, and they may take it a completely different way because they have a different belief system. They interpreted what you said from their unique perception of reality, and this triggered a limiting belief. You may not have been aware of it. You certainly didn't do it on purpose, but you can't tiptoe around making sure that no one gets their own manifestation event. You see, the manifestation event comes to point out the limiting belief. If you feel negative emotion after any event, it's simply there to show you have a belief that is not true, that could be addressed to enhance the life that you want to live. Most people are unaware of these events and they blame them on the outside conditions. But if you're the creator of your reality, you'll start to notice anytime anything happens where you feel negative emotion, it's not the outside people, it's not the event, it's your limiting belief that was triggered. You very much want to know where you're limiting yourself through these beliefs.
So then, continuing in the 3D world, let's say I want to go on this retreat and it costs $2,200, for example. And right now, financially, we can't make that happen. You speak a lot about manifesting and creating your own reality. So how can someone go about creating a reality in which I have the $2,200 so I can go on this retreat?
If you had the $2,200 to go on this retreat, you would not have the limiting belief that says you don't have enough money to go on this retreat. By wanting to go on this retreat and not having the money, you feel negative emotion. The negative emotion is pointing out that there's a belief around a financial abundance, for instance, that is limiting you. You believe that by going on this retreat, you'll get something you think you lack. But what's really happening is the inspiration to go on the retreat is simply pointing out this limiting belief that's causing a little bit of angst around money. Where is that angst coming from? Possibly this idea of responsibility. Possibly this idea that I have to have all my ducks in a row to make sure nothing happens with the finances, that people will come and look back at me and say, "You fool, what'd you do with our money?" You want to maintain an identity of careful, conservative, responsible provider. That is a limited identity. Now, you could easily get the money to go to this retreat, but you won't do it.
What? Why not?
If you would go to your listeners and say, "We'd really love to go to this retreat. We think this is the next stage of our evolution. We are putting together a little GoFundMe. Would any of you consider dropping $5, $10, $20 so that we could go and have this experience and bring it back to you?" You would have a fortune. But you won't do that because that dings your identity. You don't want to have to rely on others. You want to be the one who takes care of everyone.
Are you suggesting we create a GoFundMe so that we can go to this retreat? Are you saying, Joshua?
We're suggesting you push past your identity and do something you would never, ever consider doing before. Because to do that would risk what other people might think about you. But if you had that experience, and if you presented this idea to your listeners who want to support you desperately because they get so much from what you're doing, they have no means to really show you their love. And so you put out this little idea and even have some of them join you on this retreat, and you have the experience of the support and love that's flowing all around you. The retreat would be nothing compared to this experience. But to do that is to push past immense fear.
Well, it's a very interesting point. And the last couple of interviews, we've talked to people about the necessity of pushing yourself beyond the comfortable. So, challenge heard, and I will do what I can to push past it.
Everything you want is on the other side of every fear you have.
Right.
Now, we'll play a little game with you. Let's imagine that you are going to entertain this idea. And in your imagination, you'll say, all right, we'll have to figure out setting up this page, and it's going to be complicated, and we might have to pay some money for this, or we get someone to help us with this. And then we're going to have to make some little announcement or find a way to talk to people. Maybe we'll do a podcast about it. And then we're going to get all these people who complain about it, and we're only going to raise $10, and it's going to be a complete failure, and we're going to look like fools. This is the default mechanism. The other way to do it is you say, someone in our audience is going to be an expert at this. They're going to set up the whole thing for us. We're going to be coming up with inspiration to give little gifts and tokens of our appreciation to everyone. We're going to make a special podcast about what we learned. We're going to promote this on a full episode about this idea. And we're going to make it very easy for people to contribute $1 or $10 or $20. And it's going to be the most fun thing we ever did, because we're going to connect personally with our audience in a way that we've never done before.
Joshua, I love that.
When you do this, when you push past your fear and imagine the best that could happen, we promise you it'll always be better than that.
I'm going to take this section of this show and put it on loop and listen to it over and over and over again, because I feel so exposed in such a perfectly beautiful way that I thank you for shoving my nose in my mess, because that's basically what you've done, so that I can stop being a jerk. And I understand it's perfect. I'm being a perfect jerk. I get it. But yes, you're right. I do recognize now a lot of limiting beliefs, and I do appreciate you pointing them out, because hopefully it will finally get me off my butt and get them moving. And I'm starting to get ideas. So,
oh boy.
Yeah.
Starting to get inspiration.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Expect it, ask for it, let it come. Right. Let go of the attachment to the outcome, and everything you want will fall magically into place.
I love that. Love that.
And with that, we are complete. I'm all sweaty now.
So am I. For different reasons.
No, you wanted to be exposed, right?
Oh yeah. No,
because you're one of the most authentic person that I've had a conversation with. The ease of this conversation is so evident in both of you. How often does this sort of thing happen before? It's like kismet almost, it's like so easy and effortless.
Yeah.
It's because of how authentic you are.
I think honestly, it's a two-way street. I think if both parties, if Karen and I and our guests are authentic with each other, and we allow that flow to come through, it's magical.
Yes.
And we have the majority of the times it's like that. It becomes magical. And those are the ones that our audience says, oh my God, I love this episode, right? Because you feel that energy.
I went through a whole bunch of TikToks, and I'm like, this guy's good. This is amazing. Like every one of them was so interesting. I'm like waiting for the person that's like just selling themselves or something, Right. And it was just amazing. You just had so many great guests.
Yeah, we have had some great guests for sure.
Wow.
So,
I'm very fortunate.
On that note, we've gone for a very long time. We're definitely going to be splitting this into two parts. So
Great.
If you're still with us, thank you for listening in, but you've gotten as much out of this as we have, I'm sure, because this has been wonderful.
Fantastic.
Gary, if someone wanted to reach out to you, to connect with you, to get your books, to speak with Joshua, what's the best way for someone to reach out?
It's really start listening to Joshua live. If Joshua resonates with you, it all starts with there. From there, you can go to buy the books, do courses. We got a million things going on, retreats and all that stuff too. But that's how you start. You start with listening to that podcast. if you can understand it, if it makes sense to you, it's the leading edge of thought. So it doesn't resonate with everyone, but if it does, you'll start to understand it as you go along.
All right. So we're going to add a direct link to Joshua Live, the podcast, in our show notes. So all you need to do is go to skepticmetaphysician.com, go to Gary's episode page. You'll see that link directly laid in there. So it's easy for you to connect. I am going to start listening right away as soon as we hang up this phone call or this conversation, because I'm sold. I had an amazing time. Gary, thank you so much for coming on. This has been wonderful. And I know I would love to stay in touch, because not just was Joshua incredible, but really you, Gary, were incredible too. The conversation we had before Joshua showed up was great as well. So
awesome. Thanks. It was so much fun. I'd love to stay in touch, and you got to have Christy on the show too.
Yeah,
definitely. We need to do a four-way conversation. That would be pretty interesting too. All right, Gary, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And a huge thank you to you. We know that there are tons of options out there, and having you decide to come along on our journey of discovery with us is an absolute honor for us. If you know someone who would benefit from hearing the message we're sharing on the show, do them and us a favor and share the show with them. It will help get the word out about us, and it might just change someone's life for the better. Well, that's all for now, but we'll see you on the next episode of The Skeptic Metaphysician. Until then, take care.